Introduction. Have you ever been in a conversation where no one listens, where everyone's waiting to talk, not to understand? In a world full of noise, the rarest thing isn't intelligence. It's silence. The philosophers of old, Socrates, Seneca, Marcus Aurelius, understood that true influence doesn't come from speaking more, but from asking better. The Socratic method is one of the oldest and most powerful tools of communication ever created. It's not about winning debates or proving a point. It's about guiding people to truth through calm curiosity. When you master it, you no longer need to fight for attention. People give it to you. And here's the secret. It all starts with 3 simple words. Words that hold the essence of Stoic wisdom: humility, patience, and quiet authority. When you use them the right way, you instantly shift from being just another voice in the crowd to someone everyone listens to, because the wisest people don't dominate conversations. They direct them with calm, focused precision. The power of composed speech. The power of composed speech lies in its ability to influence, persuade, and command respect without the need for force or aggression. In a world filled with noise, haste, and emotional reactivity, composed speech stands out as a mark of intelligence, self-control, and true confidence. To speak with composure means to choose words carefully, deliver them calmly, and express thoughts with clarity and purpose. This form of communication is not only a sign of wisdom, but also a reflection of inner strength. When we speak with calm assurance, we show that we are not controlled by emotions, but guided by reason. A composed speaker does not rush to fill silence or respond impulsively. Instead, they use pauses and measured tone to create space for understanding. This creates an environment where others feel heard, respected, and more open to listening in return. Composed speech is deeply connected to Stoic philosophy, which teaches that control over one's mind and emotions leads to mastery over one's life. The Stoics believe that our reactions, not events themselves, determine our peace of mind. Similarly, in communication, it is not what others say that defines us, but how we respond. A composed response, even in the face of insult or provocation, demonstrates that one's character is unshaken. This ability to remain calm while others lose control has immense persuasive power. It disarms hostility, invites reflection, and often silences those who rely on emotional dominance or manipulation. When you remain calm and deliberate, your words carry more weight. People naturally trust and respect those who can stay steady under pressure. Furthermore, composed speech allows the message, not the emotion, to take center stage. When emotions overwhelm our words, meaning becomes distorted, and listeners focus on our tone rather than our ideas. But when speech is balanced, logical, and delivered with confidence, it captures attention and encourages rational dialogue. This is why leaders, philosophers, and thinkers throughout history have emphasized calm communication as a sign of mastery. From Marcus Aurelius addressing his troops to Nelson Mandela negotiating peace, composed speech has shaped history by fostering understanding and unity. It transcends cultures and generations because it appeals to the higher faculties of reason and empathy in human nature. Practicing composed speech also has a personal benefit. It enhances mental discipline. To speak calmly requires listening deeply, thinking critically, and detaching from ego-driven impulses. It encourages patience, empathy, and mindfulness. Over time, it becomes a habit that not only improves external relationships, but also strengthens inner tranquility. When you learn to control your words, you gain control over your world. Every conversation becomes an opportunity to express integrity and wisdom. In this sense, composed speech is not merely a communication skill. It is a form of self-mastery. It transforms conflict into dialogue, noise into meaning, and emotion into understanding. The one who speaks with composure does not seek to dominate others, but to connect with them, elevating both the speaker and the listener. This is the true power of composed speech. It commands not by volume, but by virtue. Interruptions happen. When you sound reactive, one of the main reasons people get interrupted in conversations, whether at work, in debates, or even casual discussions, is because they sound reactive instead of reflective. Being reactive means responding impulsively, emotionally, or defensively to what others say, often before fully understanding their point. This tone signals to others that you are not in control of your emotions or the conversation, which invites them to take control instead. When you sound reactive, your words lose authority. You may speak louder or faster, but instead of commanding attention, you end up giving others permission to interrupt, correct, or dominate the exchange. People instinctively interrupt reactive speakers because the energy feels unstable, emotional, and ungrounded, making them want to regain balance or steer the conversation back toward reason. Stoic philosophy teaches that calmness and self-control are forms of strength. When you maintain composure, you project confidence and authority that naturally discourage interruptions. A calm speaker conveys the message, "I am in control of myself, and therefore I am in control of this moment." In contrast, a reactive tone communicates insecurity and impulsiveness. Think about how people respond to leaders or mentors who speak with a steady, thoughtful cadence. Their words carry weight not because they shout or demand attention, but because they embody stillness and clarity. When you pause before responding, you demonstrate emotional discipline. This short silence signals that you are processing what has been said, not reacting to it. It creates psychological space that draws listeners in rather than pushing them away. Reactiveness also reveals attachment to ego. When you take every statement personally, you make the conversation about defending yourself rather than exchanging ideas. The Stoics, particularly Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus, remind us that we cannot control others' words or actions, only our responses. By mastering your reaction, you prevent others from controlling your emotions or your voice. People who constantly feel interrupted often speak from frustration, trying to force respect, rather than earning it through presence and composure. But respect in communication is not demanded. It's commanded through energy, tone, and control. When you remain non-reactive, others sense they can't easily provoke or derail you, and as a result, they stop trying. A simple Stoic practice is to delay your response by taking one mindful breath before speaking. This habit not only calms your nervous system, but also gives you a moment to gather your thoughts. Over time, this pause becomes a powerful tool. Instead of rushing to defend yourself or to prove a point, you begin to respond with intention. The less reactive you sound, the more others will listen. You become the steady voice in a noisy world, someone who doesn't compete for attention but earns it through calm strength. Remember, silence and composure are not signs of weakness. They are the highest forms of control. When you sound reactive, people interrupt. When you sound calm, people wait. That difference determines whether you merely talk or truly lead. The Socratic method. Control through questions. The Socratic method, named after the ancient Greek philosopher Socrates, is one of the most powerful communication tools ever developed. Rather than asserting opinions or arguing aggressively, Socrates used a calm, inquisitive approach, asking. In modern communication, whether in leadership, teaching, or personal relationships, the Socratic method helps us stay composed and objective. It teaches us to respond with curiosity rather than emotion. When someone challenges or interrupts you instead of reacting defensively, you can regain control with a well-placed question. Asking, "Why do you think that?" or "What leads you to that conclusion?" instantly shifts the tone. The conversation becomes an exchange of ideas rather than a competition. This is how great thinkers, negotiators, and leaders maintain authority without aggression. They control not through dominance, but through inquiry. At its core, the Socratic method is built on humility and wisdom. Socrates himself claimed, "I know that I know nothing." This mindset opens the door to continuous learning and genuine understanding. By questioning others and ourselves, we uncover hidden assumptions and gain clarity about our own beliefs. In a world full of noise and ego-driven arguments, the ability to ask precise, calm, and insightful questions is a form of intellectual and emotional mastery. It transforms conversations from battles into explorations. Ultimately, mastering the Socratic method means mastering the art of control through calm curiosity. You don't silence others by shouting louder. You silence them by making them think. Through strategic questioning, you encourage reflection, dismantle arrogance, and reveal truth. Whether in a heated debate or a quiet discussion, the person asking the right questions always leads the conversation. The Socratic method reminds us that true wisdom isn't about having all the answers, it's about knowing how to ask the right questions. Silence. As a weapon, silence is often misunderstood as a sign of weakness or submission, but in truth, it can be one of the most powerful tools a person can possess. When used deliberately, silence becomes a weapon, a form of strength that commands respect, provokes reflection, and controls outcomes without the need for aggression or argument. In a world obsessed with constant talking, posting, and proving, the ability to remain silent is a rare mastery of self-control and awareness. It allows a person to observe deeply, to think before reacting, and to hold emotional power in situations where words might otherwise betray them. Silence speaks volumes, often louder than any response could, and it can dismantle arrogance, diffuse conflict, and expose truth in ways speech cannot. Silence as a weapon begins with emotional discipline. When faced with criticism, provocation, or insult, most people feel compelled to respond immediately, to defend, justify, or retaliate. Yet those who practice Stoic restraint understand that silence denies the other person the reaction they seek. It is the refusal to play their emotional game. The silence unsettles them. It forces them to confront the emptiness of their own words. Instead of engaging in verbal combat, you maintain power by staying calm, listening, and choosing not to be drawn into chaos. In that moment, you become unshakable. Your silence says, "I am in control." This quiet strength often disarms aggressors more effectively than any counterattack. It shifts the balance of power, because the one who controls their tongue controls the situation. Moreover, silence sharpens perception. When you stop talking, you start noticing tone, expression, intention, and energy. You begin to see the truth behind what people say, not just the surface of their words. Silence gives you time to assess the motives and emotions of others, to think strategically rather than impulsively. Great leaders, negotiators, and thinkers use silence to draw information out of others, to make people reveal themselves. In conversation, a well-timed pause can make others fill the gap, often exposing what they truly think or feel. In this sense, silence becomes not just defensive, but investigative, a tool for uncovering what is hidden. In personal growth, silence also leads to clarity. It teaches patience and reflection. By stepping away from the noise of external opinions, you reconnect with your own mind. Silence becomes a sanctuary where you can process your thoughts, regulate your emotions, and align with your purpose. Many of history's wisest figures, Marcus Aurelius, Buddha, and Seneca, understood the sacredness of silence. They taught that inner peace is not found in endless conversation, but in mastering the art of listening, to others and to oneself. Ultimately, silence as a weapon is not about suppression or avoidance. It is about intention. It is knowing when to speak and when not to, when words will heal and when silence will teach. When mastered, silence becomes your armor, protecting your peace, commanding respect, and allowing your wisdom to echo louder than any noise ever could. Respect is earned through presence. Not forced. True respect cannot be demanded. It must be earned. And it is earned not through dominance or fear, but through presence, integrity, and consistent action. Many people misunderstand respect as something that comes with authority, position, or power. They believe that if they speak louder, act tougher, or impose control, others will respect them. But the truth is that forced respect is merely compliance, born from fear or obligation, not admiration. Real respect arises naturally when people recognize your authenticity, emotional strength, and calm confidence. It is a silent acknowledgement of your character rather than a reaction to your authority. Presence is the quiet power that draws others to you without words. It is the ability to remain grounded, attentive, and fully engaged in the moment. When you are present, you listen more than you speak. You understand before you judge, and you respond instead of reacting. This kind of presence communicates self-control, emotional intelligence, and confidence. People can feel it when someone is truly centered and self-assured. Such individuals do not need to shout to be heard. They command respect through their energy, composure, and the example they set. On the other hand, forcing respect often reveals insecurity. When someone insists on being respected, it's usually because they feel disrespected or uncertain of their worth. They may resort to intimidation, manipulation, or aggression to assert control. But these tactics create only temporary obedience, not genuine respect. Over time, people learn to resent rather than admire those who demand submission. They comply outwardly but disconnect inwardly. The moment the force disappears, so does the illusion of respect. A person who earns respect through presence, however, never has to demand it. They cultivate respect by living with integrity, keeping their word, staying calm under pressure, and treating others with fairness and dignity. They lead by example, showing rather than telling what it means to be disciplined, patient, and kind. Even in disagreement, they remain composed, never lowering themselves to hostility or pettiness. This inner steadiness inspires trust and admiration. People begin to listen not because they fear you, but because they value your perspective. In Stoic philosophy, true strength is measured by self-mastery. The Stoics teach that you cannot control how others treat you, but you can control how you respond. When you cultivate presence, you stop chasing respect and start embodying the qualities that naturally attract it. Respect becomes a reflection of your inner stability. You no longer need to prove your worth because it is evident in your behavior and energy. Ultimately, respect that comes from presence endures, while respect gained through force fades the moment fear or authority disappears. The lesson is simple yet profound. If you wish to be respected, don't seek to control others, control yourself. Be calm, be consistent, and be fully present. When you embody quiet strength, the world recognizes it. Respect, then, ceases to be something you demand. It becomes something you deserve.